Hey, what's going on? Welcome back. Forgiven AF podcast. Remember, this is a second chance podcast that we use as marketing material for our mentorship program, Second Chance Mentors. Today was really cool, actually. I picked up 5 of the boys. We went to Connections Shoe Store, which is off Sublet and Matlock here in Arlington, and they got to get their shoes. So that's always my favorite part of the program is blessing these kids with their shoes. But we don't just give them away; they actually have to earn them, you know. So it was cool. They had to do their community service hours. They had to be doing better in all their classes, passing their classes. And if they have a class that they're struggling in, we don't like necessarily say you're out. You know what I mean? But they need to show us that they're putting effort into it. They have to do short-term, long-term goals with a mentor, and they have to have a sit-down meeting once a month where they just kind of like chop it up with their mentor and make sure that they're like staying on track. So it's like a pretty cool thing. Thank you to our sponsors and people that helped us out with that. So that was really cool because we couldn't do that without you guys. Trying to fund this by ourselves is just not possible. So one thing that I always forget to ask, but it's really important, if you get any value of this whatsoever, if you could just, whether you're on Spotify or you're either on Apple or whatever, YouTube, wherever you're watching this, if you guys could just leave us a comment or maybe a review, just kind of give us a review. Hopefully it's 5 stars, but it's not. You can be honest with it. And I don't mean to sound like I'm begging for it, but it can just help push this out to more people. So thank you for that. And I think that's it. Our church, Life Church Mansfield, is allowing us to set up a booth in the lobby this week, which is going to be a really cool thing. So we're going to have like kind of what we do on some pamphlets to be able to pass it out to people to try to bring in some more mentors and some more support. So really thankful that the church is allowing us that opportunity to do that. And I think that's all the rambling I got for the mentorship program. Man, I'm really excited about our guest. I've actually been trying to get him in here at least 4 or 5 months. I've been trying to get it together, and just his name is Dre Harris. I think that we have kind of similar backgrounds, or I know we have similar backgrounds, and I'm excited for him to kind of like pour into it. And the stuff he's doing now is incredible. So just wait till you listen to the transformation that he's made. And hopefully anybody who's kind of going through that or confused of how to make those changes, hopefully you can get something out of this to kind of figure out. So first of all, Dre, thank you for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, bro. This is dope. I love it. Love what you're doing. Definitely with the mentorship. That's something that's always been on my heart. So it's dope to see people out here really doing it.
That's cool. Thanks, man. Thank you for saying that. Let's just get right into it, man. Kind of the first question I normally ask everyone is just kind of give us a quick rundown of like where you're from, how you grew up, you know, what sort of lifestyle, you know, it was as far as family and everything like that.
Yeah, man. So I'm from Portland, Oregon, born and raised, 34 years old. Grew up in a single mom household. It was just my mom and four of us, 4 siblings. So grew up without a father. So that kind of left it, you know those dynamics, man. It just left it where it was like a gap missing, even in identity. When I think about just like as a kid, not really knowing who I am fully because I didn't have a father in my life to actually like direct me.
Yeah.
Even just like a positive role model or anybody to kind of like speak identity into me.
That's so good.
So I think as a kid, I was like, had a lot of questions about stuff that I had to try to figure out. I think I was always searching for something, trying to find my identity in something. Yeah. And it just bounced around to a bunch of different things, which ended up leading to some trouble, you know.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
That's kind of the dynamic.
That makes sense. Can I ask you a couple questions real quick?
Yeah.
Off of that, so Steve Harvey, I heard him say not that long ago, is that every boy has a hole inside of them the shape of their father. And if that father's not there to actually fill that hole, they're going to keep finding other things to fit in that hole. And I feel like that lines up exactly with what you were saying about kind of bouncing around. And so was it hard for you, like growing up watching your mom? Like, did your mom struggle because it's got to be hard taking care of 4 kids by yourself.
Yeah, man. She struggled, but I feel like my mom worked so much that like she was there, but she wasn't around sometimes. So a lot of the time, it was us kind of raising ourselves. You know, there was stuff that we just did. We would be out late. You know, she's working. So it's just like that dynamic where so she wasn't really in control too much.
Yeah, it's so funny you said that because that's one of the things when I talk about the boys in our mentorship program, that's how I describe what a lot of these boys have going on is they're being raised by a single mother who's working 2-3 jobs, busting her butt, Like, she deserves respect and like a round of applause. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to pay the bills on the rent, like the bills and rent on their apartment, and then the kids just got all this free time to run around and do what they want. You know what I mean? And it's exactly what you just said.
For sure.
Yeah, and it's really common. So that's kind of why we try to step in and see what we can do to kind of fill that gap. But it's still tough. When did you start getting in trouble?
Honestly, so I think I feel like I was in trouble my whole life. Like, it really feels like from elementary school on. I think the first time I was ever put in the back of a police car, I was like 5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember it too. I kicked down a fence in the neighborhood, and they came in and hemmed me up, and so
that's tough.
Yeah, but so I think I was constantly in trouble. But I'll say it's crazy when I first like really started getting into like really deep trouble.
Yeah.
I had reached out to my father trying to make a connection. My mom had finally told me who he was, so I reached out to him trying to make a connection and had a conversation with him, and 2 days later, he was saying that, oh yeah, we're gonna meet up. I had never like met him. I think I was in the 4th or 5th grade at this point.
Yeah,
never met him before. And he was supposed to meet up with me. It was like during the week, on school week, we were supposed to meet up on Friday. Call him on Friday, and the number got disconnected. Literally,
that just made my stomach hurt,
bro. Just disconnected. So I'm like, I remember 2 weeks in a row calling it every day after school.
Oh man,
every day calling the phone. This number has been disconnected, and ended up, that just kind of led to like this anger inside of me. Just like I was getting in. I probably got in the fight that week.
That whole effort mentality.
It just like it kicked me because it was just like that feeling of not being wanted. You know what I'm saying? And by somebody that you had desired your whole life, and you always had these questions, and you finally build up the courage to ask your mom about it, and then it's like she was like, "I'm not gonna keep him from you, but this is the reality of what you got to deal with." So I think that's when I really started getting in trouble. That's when I was rebelling just to rebel.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter what it was. It was like whatever.
Bro, that breaks my heart. Like I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. Like
it's tough.
That is definitely tough. Has there been any like rekindling of that relationship since then?
Man, that's a crazy conversation that I haven't really spoken about yet. So no, there hasn't.
Have you tried?
So okay, do you want to get into that? It's a lot though. That is a whole different. So basically, last year I found out the whole time who I thought was my dad is not my dad. Through Ancestry.com.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So it's basically I found out, my mom ended up telling me like.
So you found out and then asked her about it?
No. She ended up telling me early last year that she had questions, that she didn't know for sure if the person was my dad or not. And then she was like, I want to do an ancestry thing for you. And so she did it. And the person who she thought was like the potential to be my dad, I connected with all of his family. And so that was like a thing, and then found out he died in 2016.
Oh man.
So it was like, bro, it was a lot. It was a lot.
That would be really tough. Was there a little sense of a peace about it though, as far as like at least it wasn't the same dude that blew you off?
Yeah, it was. So the other thing is the guy who blew me off molested my older sister when I was younger.
And you hadn't known that, right?
I didn't know that, right? So when I found that out, I knew at this point, but when I found that out, there was the relief of like, I'm not tied to somebody
that's good.
Like that.
Yeah.
But I think where I got shook up at is that I grew up with all of this anger and bitterness and hatred towards a father, towards this person who I thought was my dad. Yeah. Then to grow up, figure out that that's not my dad, figure out the person who's actually my dad didn't know that I was his son, and then he's dead. So I have nowhere to direct this anger at.
So that's hard.
You know what I mean?
That's really hard. And I don't even know how you would process that. But there's some part in it that kind of feels almost like a little bit more peaceful than being the guy who blew you off, and then you already had that negativity about him.
Yeah, for
because maybe you could have had an amazing relationship if he would have known. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, there's definitely a relief, but it's still like
I can't imagine how much that hurts.
Still like, man, like I think it shook up it shook up a lot in me. It did.
That's definitely hard, bro.
It just was like identity stuff, because it's like you get to a point. I had processed through all of this stuff in therapy before, like about my father wound. So I got to a place where I was at peace with it, where I was like settled in it. And then in my 33 years old,
and it gets just
brings
completely
up
switched
all
up
all the way. And now I got to reprocess all of this stuff and deal with it. And one of the things I realized, man, is that in my life with the Lord, everything that I've placed my identity in outside of Him has had to be surrendered.
Come on.
Has had to get broken up. Like there was nothing that I could like hold on to around my identity outside of Christ.
That's so good.
Being a kid that has been abandoned, like I can't hold on to that story no more.
Yeah.
You know? Like inside of Christ, I just can't.
Yeah.
And He just like removed everything that was like a grip on me, even just felonies and
so good.
Being a criminal, all of these things, like everything that I placed my identity around had to be surrendered.
Bro, I'm learning right now. That's so good, man. Yeah. Because it takes away also a lot of people you see come up with who they are as a person or what their identity is like sometimes comes from like a woe is me type. Oh man, you don't understand. I've been through this. But really, when they're claiming that as their identity, and this is what you just said, but I'm just putting it in different words, they're taking their identity away from it being God, their identity with Jesus.
Yeah, man, that's your identity has to be rooted.
God, that's so freaking good.
Because the reality is that nothing else is really of value.
Yeah, no.
Any identity that you place yourself in outside of Christ is like
fleeting.
It's fleeting.
Yeah.
All of it's fleeting. Like you can't boast in none of that. We can't boast in our race.
That's so good.
We can't boast in any of our financial status. None of those things we can actually boast in.
Because it can all be taken away in a second. And none of it is real. Man, what would be your piece of advice? And I know I'm just throwing this on you. To any sort of young man or young woman, it could be a girl too, who is kind of growing up in that same situation, maybe not having a relationship with their dad, or do you have anything with that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that
you kind of already hit on it.
Yeah, but I would say that it doesn't define you.
That's good.
Like I think I spent so much of my life like thinking about it and like feeling like I was defined by the fact that I didn't have I remember being in elementary school and them having Father's Day. And that's a thing that they actually, let's make stuff for our dads. And I remember sitting in class every time. It used to hit me.
God, that makes me want to cry.
And it really it hurt me. But I think if I can look back and I can encourage that young boy that was in that thing, it's like, it doesn't define me. That doesn't make me who I thought I would. I felt like I was missing something. And there's a reality that there is a gap missing. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, it doesn't define my character. It doesn't define me. It doesn't hold me back from it. Can't. I can make it so it doesn't hold me back.
So that hole that that Steve Harvey said in the shape of their dad can only be filled by one thing, and that's God, right?
That's it.
So that's kind of where the way you would have to flip that.
Yeah, and then the reality is that you can have a father in your life and still miss that gap.
Yeah.
And still not have that fully filled, right?
There's some people that have a dad in their life that are probably better off without a dad in their life. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of kids going through it that have their family there. Yeah. So that's really good. All right, now we got to go back to, so we're starting to get in trouble, right? You're wilding out because you have that anger inside of you from your dad's situation, and what was like your first like couple of times of getting in trouble where you actually had to like repercussions from it?
First, I mean, I got kicked out of like almost every school that I went to, elementary schools. I got my mom kicked out of our apartment complex for fighting multiple times. It would be stuff like that. It was always fighting. Yeah, it was always fighting. Fighting and stealing. Those were the two things. Like I would shoplift, get caught at the store stealing stuff. Like
the crazy thing is meeting you now and like following you and you don't, that doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like
that's Christ, bro.
I mean, I'm not saying that you couldn't, like you're tough, you're big dude, but I'm saying like you're so like it is Jesus. That's what it is, bro. Because you seem so genuine and loving.
Yeah, he changes your countenance.
That's so good.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so my first robbery, I was 11 years old. We robbed a bike store for like 60 bikes. like just kids, young kids, seen a bike store, was like, man, we want to get some bikes. Broke into it, robbed the bike store, pull all these bikes into the alley, got actually jacked for the bikes by some older guys in the neighborhood, and we were all pissed off because we put in all this work to steal these bikes and end up getting caught up.
And they stole the bikes from you?
They stole them from us. We had all these bikes in the alley, and then like 15 guys walk up and where y'all get these? And just took all our bikes. We were
so
crying. They took all the good ones. They took literally all the good
They left you like the banana seat bike and stuff?
No, we couldn't get. So there was one bike I remember, man. There was a bike, the 2-seater bike that was up on the wall that we wanted so bad, but we were so little that we couldn't reach it. So we just like had to leave the bike up on the wall. But yeah, that's that. We started, man, young, just like running around. I feel like I think about that. I'm like, man, that was like we went back to the store at 10 o'clock to break in at 11 years old on a weekend. Like being out at 10 o'clock in the hood,
that sounds crazy.
In the middle of the hood, that's crazy to be able to do that at 10 o'clock. Yeah, so just running around, man, just getting into all kind of trouble.
And then when's you said you've been, and I don't mean to just jump right to it, but you've been incarcerated twice, right?
Yeah. Oh, I've done 2 bids.
Yeah.
I've been in jail a couple times and then the penitentiary.
What were the first time you got in trouble where you actually had to do time?
So the first time that I got in trouble was for delivery and possession of a controlled substance, and then I had a firearm. Okay. So I got caught with some crack, and it really wasn't even. I was freshly 18 the first time I got caught up, and it really wasn't even me pushing crack at that time. I started selling dope afterwards, but at that time I actually had bought it for a friend. So I had a little homie that was from my hood that was going through a tough time. He was trying to figure out his path. He kept hitting me up every day for money, and at this point I was already like homeless, living couch to couch, bouncing around, and basically had been providing for him financially. I was like, bro, you gotta get your own money. I can't keep giving you this. So I went and bought the crack for him,
so he could sell it.
So he could sell it and come up. And then I ended up getting into it with some guys that some gang stuff, and tried to shoot somebody, and the gun jammed, and all this stuff happened, and it ended up getting caught on the corner waiting for some people to come pick me up.
That was probably God too. That gun
it was
jammed.
God. It was definitely God, man.
You don't have to have that on your conscience, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then so you end up getting caught up that time?
Yeah, I got caught.
Did they actually hit you with any sort of attempted murder? Did they not know what happened?
No, they didn't know what happened.
That's good.
Which was a blessing.
So then you get out from that one.
Yeah.
Did you have to do time behind that?
I think I did 8 months.
Oh, so that was serious. Yeah.
It was my first charge, but it was just basically waiting for trial in county.
Yeah. So and then while you're in on that, are you thinking to yourself, I can't wait to get out and do right? Or are you thinking to yourself like you learning the ways of prison, like
Yeah, I wasn't care. I didn't care. It was like, I'll do this on my head, because at that point I knew most of my friends had already been to the penitentiary or jail or county or something. I knew a bunch of people in there, so it was like a family reunion almost, going up in there and just seeing people I know, and it's just like, this is nothing.
And it's not like that much time. So at this point, had you had a relationship with the Lord at this point?
Nah.
So not even at all?
Not at all. My grandma used to talk about him, but that's about it.
Yeah. So you get out and you continue just being a knucklehead kind of?
So I get out and, literally get out and just continue. My grandma ended up, once I got officially charged, because they let me out on pretrial release after a certain amount of time. Once I got officially charged, they gave me time served, and then I moved in with my grandparents for about 7 months, and like one of the stipulations was I had to go to church. So that was kind of like
from your grandmother?
Yeah, in order to live with her. So I was staying there and was doing pretty good. I mean, I still was doing my thing, but I was like doing better than I had been. And then one of my friends got killed, and that kind of like shifted it and ended up started messing up again. And my grandma kicked me out and just was right back to the streets.
Yeah. Do you think that your grandmother forcing you to go to jail, forcing you to go to church, do you think there was any seeds planted there, or was it more of like okay?
Yeah, I feel I feel like it created a familiarity with God's voice.
That's good.
Like just like being able to see certain things and distinguish certain things.
Yeah, because sometimes I feel like people get discouraged when they try to get, they're kind of forcing, someone to go to church and the person doesn't seem like they're fully getting it. I think so. There's just some kind of like motivation there that like, hey, maybe you're just planting the seed by, inviting that young man or young person to come to church.
Yeah, even just a level of comfortability with like the things of church.
Yeah.
Prayer and worship. Like at that point, they already knew what I was about. So they're all praying for me during service. So I'm like standing there like, all right, I don't really know what y'all doing, but I'm going to listen to it,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's cool. All right. So then you, how you getting, are you still in Oregon?
Yeah. So let me rewind a little bit. Okay. So because I think one of the big parts of my story is when I was 16, my mom left. So I had already been no father in my life. When I was 16 years old, my mom left and moved out here to Dallas. Okay. And she left me at my aunt's house, who was a drug addict, strung out, just like it wasn't terrible, but it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time in that short amount of time of like, I think the first like 3 months, like literally starving, bro. Like literally eating top ramen noodles, like stealing change out of her dirty clothes. Like just like it was a struggle. I lost like 40 pounds over the summer, just like really struggling. And my mom just like, she dipped, left me there. So it was like I had a roof over my head, but no other structure.
Yeah.
So I started going. So that was my sophomore year, going into my junior year that summer. So I ended up going back to school, going to high school, but it was like all on me. I didn't have any structure. I didn't have to go to school. But part of the reason why I went to school is because I needed to eat. Like it was literally like, if I don't go to school, like I'm not about to eat any food today.
That's crazy.
So I started going to school. And then one of my older homeboys put me on with a bunch of drugs. He gave me I think he gave me like a zip of weed. Yeah. And I just started selling weed. And from that moment, I was good as far as financially. I didn't have to like starve anymore. So then when I turned 17, one of my best friends got killed. He was 14 years old. He was one of my like close friends from the same hood as me. So I had already been gangbanging and all this stuff by 15. I'm already like a part of a gang, doing all of that. But so once he got killed, that was when I really like dived into gangbanging. Like prior to that, I wasn't really like, it was like claiming it. It was like throwing up, the fingers and saying I'm from this and that. But it wasn't like any beef. Like I didn't have any problems with anybody. But once he got killed, that's when it like turned into some.
Oh, because he was killed by like a rival gang?
Yeah, he was killed by somebody.
Do you feel like you were more likely to join that gang because of the camaraderie in the family, like dynamic of it?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, for sure. Like not having a father in your life, but then you got big homies that are grown men that are popular, that are, doing whatever. It's like you look up to those.
Yeah, that's what I could see how that would be easily influenced at that point. Yeah. So so then we roll into, so that's what you're doing, and then you roll into the aspect of getting in trouble with the little bit of hard that you got for your boy.
Yeah.
You go to jail, you get out, you're living with your grandmother. Yeah. You're going to church, someone else dies. Yeah. See, you've been through it.
Backslide. Sure.
Like all the things that you've been through, like you know what I mean? That your identity could be so caught up in all that, bro. Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's why you had to do all that work to figure out that like that's not what it is. That's really impressive, bro, because a lot of men won't go put that work in. Yeah, no, for sure. You know what I mean? Like, didn't you speak on going to counseling and like kind of therapy?
I've been in therapy for, I think, 5 years now. Yeah. Yeah. So
when did you end up moving to Texas? Did you catch your second charge before you came here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my second charge, so I'm like at this point, once I left my grandma's and went back to the streets, like, and it was like, how scripture says, like, when you cast out a demon and then it comes back, it's like 10 times worse.
Stronger, yeah.
Like this was like my life. That was like me spiritually. Like I came back into gangbanging and it was just like
all in.
Yeah, it was all in. Like I was like riding around doing skid shooting. Like it was a constant thing. I was like working my way up the ranks of like being one of the leaders of the gang. So it was like for real. It got to a point where I was like doing a lot of stuff. Yeah. So I was in a position where anybody under 28 was under me, and this was when I was like 20.
Wow,
like
really?
2019. Anybody under 28, because nobody else had got. I was the first like little homie to be like official from my hood. Yeah. Everybody else was just like saying they were from the hood.
Because you were putting the work in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anybody under 28 was under me, and we had it was like 20 of us, and it's crazy how God like made this. I can say God life and mixed with a little bit of God made all this happen, but like it went from like being 20 of us to like everyone getting either locked up, a couple people got killed, and just all this stuff ended up happening to the point where I was like by myself. Like literally it was like all my homeboys was either in prison, fighting cases, or dead. Like it ended up happening like that in a short amount of time. So I'm out by myself, and one of these dudes that I had been running into it with them. We got into back and forth shootouts multiple times. Ended up getting in a shootout with him, and that's kind of what ended up sending me to prison.
So it was it was like a shootout from this.
Yeah, it was a shootout. Yeah.
Man. And how much time did you get on that one?
A year and a day.
So when you finished that bid, now this is the bid where you just said, you know what, I think I'm going to make some changes, right?
This is the bid where I was locked in. I was doing pretty well.
So what flipped that switch in your mind? Like what?
So the day that I had this experience with the shootout, same exact day, right before that shootout, I had an encounter with God. So I'm like I'm sitting at this bus stop, and I see somebody that I knew was an active enemy that had killed one of my friends. I see them drive by. They're driving towards me, and they see me. We lock eyes with each other. They turn the corner in front of me. So I go to reach into my backpack to grab my gun, and the Lord said, if you pull out that gun, you're gonna die today. Like literally, like if you pull out this gun, you're gonna die.
Like you almost heard it like in your mind, but
I can't
it
tell
almost
if it was audible or if it was in my mind. I don't know, but it was like I knew what he was saying, and so I was like, okay, what do you want me to do? He said, get on your knees and worship me. It's a broad daylight, standing on the street. So I got on my knees, cried out to the Lord for like a second, and got up, looked in the direction where the car turned, and they turned that block. So they came back up on the block and came in my direction, and I'm like watching the car drive by, and they just don't even look at me. Just keep driving straight.
Which is not like how anything would normally happen in that situation.
Because I knew like we locked eyes, we seen,
and they turned around and came back.
Yeah, and they turned around and came back. So it was like that was supposed to be something that was supposed to happen. So that happened. I never shared this part, but he actually told me to do it twice in that day. So I don't know what I was thinking. I was just like, man, I want to get my life right, because I knew that I was wrong. What he said was scaring me. Yeah. Like, I'm like, man, I'm about to die. Like the Lord is like really just spoke to me. So I went to college. I went to a college, to Portland Community College, to try to sign up for classes. I'll never forget this, because I was like, I got to get right with Jesus. I'm about to die. So I go to the Portland Community College, and while I'm walking up, he said it again: get on your knees and worship me outside of the college. So I went, got on my knees again. And then I ended up going and trying to ask if I can sign up for classes. And it was like middle of the semester. They was like, no, you can't sign up for classes right now. So I went home, took a nap, woke up, and then was like, man, I'm about to go to the hood. Went to the hood. I had my pistol on my hip at this time. So I get off of the bus at this train station on 122nd in Burnside. So I get off of the bus to get onto the train. And when I get off of the bus, the guys that I had been actively getting in shootouts with were standing at the bus stop. So they pulled out their guns. I pulled out mine, and it just turned into a shootout.
And luckily you made it out of that.
Yeah, made it out of that.
And you were by yourself, and I was
by myself.
And there
was
weren't.
Three of them.
Yeah. So from all the stuff that you've been through, and all the shooting, all the gang stuff, and all the fighting, and I mean, I could tell you right now that God had a purpose. Like he was like, bro, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
And then like the way he was speaking to you and trying to keep you out of it, like. Yeah. So he definitely had a purpose in your life, and that's why it's cool to see you walking in it. Yeah. Okay, so now you're locked up.
So I'm on the run for 3 months, but then I end up getting locked up for it. And so when I go into county, I'm like, I got to get my life right with the Lord. So I'm like locked in, doing Bible studies with other people.
Yeah.
We had a prayer circle that we started in our dorm. That was crazy. It was dope to see. So I think I was in county for like 4 months. I was county for like 4 months.
Yeah.
When I got shipped over to the penitentiary is a different story than county.
Definitely.
So as soon as I walk in, people that were from rival gangs seen me, knew who I was, and immediately ran up on me. Like literally 5 minutes into Oregon State Penitentiary,
You fighting?
They ran up. I didn't end up getting into a fight.
Oh, that's
they
cool.
ran up on me and like was like asking me like, "Oh, you were there when someone so and so got killed?" And it just like I kind of like ducked up because this is my first time at that facility. I don't know nobody there. I don't know what's going on. So I honestly was scared.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was definitely like, "Oh shoot, like I don't know." I got 7 people running up on me and I don't know anybody else here. So I kind of ducked off and got away from the situation, and then kind of it actually. So at this point, I'm like locked in. Like I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, I want to do this time with the Lord. I want to spend time with the Lord. That happened, and it pushed me all the way back. Like it just made
you had to go back to survival mode of like
I had to. So it felt like I was just like, yo, I gotta like act tough. I gotta like be this person again, even though I don't want to. So it ended up being this dynamic where in the penitentiary, I was frontline for the Crips. Like I was like on the front line with everybody else doing everything. But when I was in my cell, I was praying. I was asking the Lord to help me, get me out the situation and all this stuff. So it kind of played into that dynamic. So then it ended up turning into a point where they were like, you got to put in some work. Like, we know that you're reputable outside, but you need to do some stuff here.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling like, man, I ain't about to be doing that. But they kept on asking, like, hey, bro, it's time. It's about that time you got to make something happen. And I remember praying to the Lord and just like, God, I don't want to do anything. Like, help me get out of this situation. And I'm not saying that the Lord did this. I don't really know how this plays out because I don't know. But one of the guys that killed one of my friends, they actually killed my best friend, the one that I was telling that he was 14, he ended up getting transferred over to my facility. So he came into the facility, and there was no way that we were going to be in the facility at the same time. So I ended up taking off on him and getting into a fight with him, and then spent the rest of my time in the hole.
Yeah, that almost was a blessing, and if you look at it that way.
Bro, it was amazing because solitary confinement was one of the best things that could have happened to me.
I've heard that before.
Man, I was in there, peace of mind, reading my Bible, just like locked in physically, working out, you know, every day, just like really, it was really good for me. Got out after, I think I did 90 days after fighting him. Yeah. Got out, and while I was standing in the line to get my clothes, one of his homeboys took off on me, and we got into a fight again, same like the day after I got out. And so I went back and spent the rest of my time in the hole.
Yeah, sometimes that's a blessing.
It was a blessing.
Because what a lot of people don't understand is even if you didn't put the work in that those dudes wanted you to on someone else, then you got to deal with them trying to make you, you know what I'm saying? Then you got to deal with them. Like that gang stuff is tough, man.
It is. I mean, the politics is crazy.
The politics, I remember when I got to prison, I have a shaved head because I have a receding hairline, right? Not because I'm a skinhead.
Right.
But I get to prison and the white dudes, you know, like the little Aryan type, they were like, hey, man. So I had a Bible study that I started in Oakdale, Louisiana, and I didn't care about what race you were. I had black, white, Hispanic, Asian dudes. I even went as far as I didn't even care what your case was. Like, I was like, this is a Bible study. Like, I don't feel like I can tell you can't come to this Bible study. Right. Well, I had these Aryan dudes come up and tell me, man, I know you don't, they said, I know you don't roll with us, but you look like us, and you can't be doing this. This makes us look bad. And I was like, what?
Yeah, that's
and and I didn't stop. And they ended up jumping on me. But I fought back, and then they never tried to do anything again after that. I think they just wanted to see, like, what I, you know what I mean? Yeah. And am I going to lay down and listen to them, or are we going to, you know what I mean? Yeah. But that stuff always drove me crazy about, like, taking orders from someone else who, like, that's tough.
Yeah, I was never about that.
Yeah,
there was a part of me that was like, I'm not doing what they're about to try to tell me to do.
Yeah,
like,
see
I'm my own man, but that's politics, though.
That is politics. It's definitely tough. And in prison, I don't know if you aren't familiar, prison is you're either segregated by gang or you're segregated by race. You know what I mean? Like 100%. probably first race, and then even throughout the races becomes the gang side of it, you know?
For sure.
And that's pretty crazy. There's a kid that we're working with at one of the schools. I'm not going to put his name out there but there's a young little white kid, right? And he swears that he's like repping this Crip, like that, you know what I mean? That he's, and it's just kind of like from my experience of being locked up, and seeing that, and I've seen a white kid claiming that he was a Crip, and I saw what happened when stuff went down, and I saw that he was left by himself. You know what I mean? Like,
politics will change,
and that's why I try to explain to him, like, hey, bro, you need to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet. Like, you can't be trying to rely on something that's not going to have your back when stuff hits the fan, you know. Yeah. But he's one of the same type of kids who just lost in his identity. He just wants to be a part of something. Yeah. He wants to be a part of anything, and that was like, and he grew up in South Dallas, and I feel like he probably had, you know, some older dudes that were real, you know, gangbanging like that, and saw some little kid that could be a do boy. Hey man, yeah, you can be a Crip. Go do this, this, and this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And now he's falling for that, like, you know, and it's sad, honestly. But all right, so you get right with the Lord, you do solitary confinement, you get out, then what happens? Now we just got out of prison.
So I started coaching football.
That's awesome.
I met a mentor, and he brought me. He was coaching football, 7 and 8 year olds. So I started coaching. I coached football for 2 years.
Still in Oregon?
No, I'm out here. So when I got out of prison, the day I got out, I came out here.
That's the only way you're going to get away from all that stuff. Yeah,
way, man. Literally, like left from being in the hole, 23.5-hour lockdown, to being on a plane, just flying out here. Just like, man, it's crazy.
Did you know where your mom was out here?
She was out here in Dallas. She was in Irving.
That's cool.
So I came out here, came to Irving, started coaching football, 7 and 8 year olds, did that for 2 years. Met up with Nate Cobman, one of my brothers, and he had a nonprofit organization, so I joined that. Started doing prison outreach and homeless outreach and stuff like that.
Yeah, big shout out to Nate Cobman too, because that's where I found you, was on his, you were actually on his first episode of his podcast. Yeah. He came and did, if y'all go back on season 1, maybe the beginning of season 2, I'm not sure exactly which episode, he came on and poured a bunch of knowledge. He's a very, that man's special. That man, if something about relationships with him, I feel like he's got it like kind of a different type of specialization when it comes to that, when it comes to, and how to treat women, which is really cool, like in a positive light. You know what I'm saying? That's a really, so go back and check that episode out. You get a lot out of that. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you good. That's my brother, man. That's one of my best friends for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely a good dude. So then you come down here. Now you've been working on your relationship with God. You come down here, and do you find a church? Do you find, like, what's your next step? Like,
yeah, so I got plugged into a church. I got plugged into a church. I started doing a lot of stuff in the community. Started trying to just grow in my relationship with the Lord. I think there was a process of just like sanctification that we tried to go through. So it was like learning how to like really be a Christian. Yeah, not like do what the world does.
And that's hard because I still struggle with that though.
Yeah.
What was the hardest thing for you moving to a new area and trying to like?
I would say off the bat, I would say like getting to a space where my trauma was no longer like leading me.
That's good.
It was hard for me to like, because prior to like being out in the streets, I had to watch my back all the time.
Yeah.
I've been in multiple shootouts. I'll be walking down the street and get shot at out of nowhere. So getting to a space where I was no longer like reacting to my trauma and just like actively walking in PTSD, that was probably the toughest part for sure. Because I'm still processing through stuff from back then, like still to this day.
You still kind of have to look. You still look over your shoulder, even though you don't have to.
No, I don't anymore. Okay. I don't anymore. That's gone. I don't even think about it anymore.
That's good.
But it took like 2 years for me to actually get to a space, and I got out of prison 2012, so it's been 11 years.
Yeah, that's good. And then how'd you get into photography?
Man, so that's one of the things that's dope that I think. I really wish that I could show a lot of these young cats this. There is gifts and talents that are inside of us that we have no idea. Like we spend all this time selling drugs, trying to gangbang, doing all of this foolishness, and there's things that like if we just picked up and like learned, like we would just be great at. You know what I'm saying?
That's really good.
We'd be really great at, but we get caught up on all these other things that don't really bring us nowhere in life. You know what I mean? So I just started, one of my mentors was into graphic design. I started doing graphic design, picked it up really fast, got good at that. That led to photography, and I love photography, man. So it kind of just happened, bro. Just like interest, and it's like, I don't know, mess with it, and I just realized, hey, I'm good at this.
You just kind of taught yourself?
Yeah, taught myself. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So now I lead the photography team at my church, do photography very often. I got a photo shoot tomorrow, so.
What if someone wants to get something done in the DFW area? How do they find you?
So Instagram, Dre Elijah Harris, and then I have a website.
Spell that out for me.
DREELIJAHHARRIS on Instagram. And then I have a website called thinkdesignnation.com.
Thinkdesignnation.com?
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's cool. And you can, people, you're for hire for anything they got to do. You even do weddings and stuff if they need it?
Yeah. I've never done a wedding. I'm kind of scared of a wedding.
I'm speaking life right there because there's big money in there.
Yeah, there is. I haven't done a wedding. I've done a lot of lifestyle stuff. And then I also do graphic design, printing, T-shirts, hats, all that stuff.
So sometimes I think that when you have a person that, especially that kind of has an urban background when it comes to their work, and then you put them into a wedding environment, they come up with new types of shots and different type of stuff, and rather than just the standard old-fashioned shots. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So I think that comes with a really cool creative side. So hopefully someone listening is going to be like, you know what? I want to try that with my wedding and reach out. One of the things that I'm really proud of you about, and especially when I found out, man, that you're not doing it for anything but for the fact that you just feel called to do it, is these coat drives and things like that. What other type? You just explain kind of what you got going on with that, and what other little things you got going on in the community.
So I'm definitely, so I have some brothers that I mentor. So I stay plugged into that. I lead a Bible study group of men. That's an amazing thing. It's through my church. But that's been one of the best communities that I've had. And then the cold drive thing was just something that the Lord put on my heart. I realized that it's going to be a really cold winter. And I just was I want to make sure that people are warm out there. So I just was like, hey, I woke up. I literally had the thought while I was in bed, woke up and was just like, man, I should do a cold drive. I should do it. And I just paid somebody to create a flyer for me because I didn't feel like doing it. And just hey, man, I'm about to do it and to see who all comes through with it.
I think it's awesome. We had actually, before I saw you post that, about a week before that, we started putting together a code drive, right? So what we're actually going to do today, and I kind of told you, is we got a ton of coats, bro. I've got 3 or 4 trash bags full of, and nice Carhartts, real, people brought their nice stuff. They didn't just bring the trash. Yeah. So we want to donate that to y'all to give out. You know what I mean?
Appreciate that, bro.
So that'll be cool. And it's actually it's nice stuff. You know what I mean? You'll be proud to pass that out. So thank you for doing that. You're saving us some time too on the donation side of it. But no, that's cool. And that's actually super rewarding. You know what I'm saying? Seeing, I think that maybe we should collaborate and kind of come up with a way to, because what really hit me hard was you were talking about not having food, at a young age. And it just made me think about how many kids in this area are dealing with that same thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So maybe there's some sort of initiative or something that we can do with that.
That'd be dope.
I don't know if it's a bag lunch drive or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be dope, man.
But that'd be really cool to do it together somehow. I don't know how to play that.
That'd be dope, man.
But man, the last thing that I will hit on before I ask you the question that we ask everybody is, because this is really cool. How did you go about, so you've gotten your record expunged.
Yeah.
Which is not easy to do. How did you go about that?
Yeah, man. So that's a crazy story because I have 3 felonies on my record: 2 distribution and delivery of controlled substance, and then unlawful use of a firearm. So when I initially came out here, I had heard about expungement and stuff, and I was like, man, I want to look into that. And when I went and looked into it, in Oregon, you could not get delivery charges expunged. This was in 2015. Okay. You couldn't get them expunged. They'll be on your record for the rest of your life. Yeah. But the other stuff could after 7 years. So I was reaching out to people trying to figure out how to do this, talk to some attorneys. They're like, oh, no, you're stuck with this. So I was really discouraged because I had went from doing all this work in the community, and I started trying to find an apartment and kept hearing no. I couldn't get an apartment. I got my first apartment at like 33, 34 years old. Because I'm in, no, like 33, 32. Yeah. I couldn't get an apartment anywhere, like anywhere nice.
Yeah. You having to try to manipulate, like put in someone else's name.
And that's what I was doing. I was putting in other people's name, but I couldn't have something of my own in my own name. Even after all the changes and transformation that I did, I was still being held back by that. So it was really discouraging. So I ended up just kind of keep looking into it, checking in on it, and ended up them saying that they will now allow you to get your record expunged even with delivery charges in Oregon. So I ended up reaching out to an attorney. They were trying to charge me like $3,000 to do it. I ended up doing some more research and looked at I can actually apply it by myself. So I went and did all the work myself.
That's that law library mentality.
I'm like, nah, I'm about to do this myself. So I went and applied, man, and a year later they expunged it. It got expunged April, which is crazy. I got my release date from the last time I did my bid was April 24th, 2012. They expunged my record on the paper. It literally says April 23rd.
That's so cool, man. I'm super jealous of that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you, but I'm super jealous of that, man. Like, I think that would be amazing. I would love to be able to try that. Mine is also possession with intent to distribute. We have pretty much the same charge.
Right.
So, like, I could never, like we were talking about earlier, I can never own a firearm, even though my felony's over. It's 13 years old, right? Yeah. And I've done nothing. I've had nothing, no issues. But for life, I'm unable to hold a firearm. And that's something that I wish that they would put some effort into maybe looking into changing, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's just something that maybe I can get Meek Mill to, he's all into that reform.
And though, I think you could actually, if you can get a hold of some government officials and actually get a pardon, you'll be able to get it.
See,
but that's the extreme that it
I would have to have the pardon. That's the only way.
Yeah.
And that's really tough. I don't really know any presidents or any people that could get.
Hey, you probably got some resources, man. There's somebody out here listening.
Man, that would be cool.
Get my man plugged in with the right resources.
That would be cool. Let me know how I need to get that off me because that would be awesome. Man, I don't even know if you know how much awesome information you put out so far in this podcast, man. I really appreciate you being open and vulnerable and like sharing some of the stuff that's not cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the stuff that you've been through. A lot of people, as men nowadays, a lot of us think that we got to have it figured out. We got to be tough. No, I was good. I was straight. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the sharing of our testimony. Yeah, like to me, that verse to me is how I try to live my life. So I'm gonna be as open and vulnerable and transparent as I can, and hopefully, I can help someone else who's paying attention to it. Yeah. So I think that by you sharing all the things you've been to, there's gonna be people that are listening, and be like, "Dang, me too." Yeah. Oh, me too. Yeah. You know what I mean? So the last thing I want to hit on before we sign off is if there was like one piece of advice that you could give to a little 16-year-old Dre or a 16-year-old kid in our mentorship program that's living with the same life experience, life situations that you went through at 16, what would you tell yourself or tell that kid?
Man, I would say a lot. I would definitely say that you're worth it, that you're worth fighting for, that you're worth living for, that you're worth like not throwing your life away. A lot of times I think we get stuck in those positions where we don't know what our identity is, so we also don't know what our worth is. You know what I mean? And it's like, there is a worth, there is a value, there is a God-given gift. You are not just a number. You are not just a person on this earth that ain't worth anything. So just know that you are loved, know that you are cared for, know that there is intentionality in your design, that God created you with that purpose and that in mind, and that you're worth more than what you think you are. Yeah. I think a lot of us have that experience of being told that we'll never be nothing, we'll never amount to nothing, that we're not worth nothing, we'll be dead or in jail. And it's like, nah, bro, you have the choice that you can make to change that. You can turn your life around, especially with the Lord. But that's so good. Even if you don't believe in God and you really want to do good, you can turn your life around. You can be a better person on this earth, You don't have to fall susceptible to all those things. And there's no real value in the things that the world tries to push on us.
Yeah.
Like, it's not really once you get older and you recognize all my friends are dead, all my friends are strung out doing drugs and just all this negative stuff, and you look back and you see where your life's at, you're gonna look back and be like, dang man, why didn't I change? And it's like you're in a position right now to make that decision.
And you still can, right?
That's so right
good.
Now.
Because if you think about it, all the people that I know so many people right now that got all those things that we think that we want to pursue, the money, the girls, and they're still miserable.
Yeah,
bro.
man.
They're still miserable because they have no foundation in the Lord, bro. Yeah. Like they have no peace. They need more money or more women or more drugs or more alcohol or more, you know what I mean? Yeah. They have no peace. So that's awesome advice, man, because these kids, I think that's one of the reasons they're so willing to get into this knucklehead stuff is because they don't realize how valuable they are and what they're worth, man.
Yeah.
And that's such.
And you can. And the crazy thing is, your value actually goes up when you're starting to do positive stuff.
Big time.
It's like, bro, there's not too many people that are millionaires off of drug money. No, like it's not. You know what I'm saying? I've never met nobody.
I've never met
all the even in prison. Like I've met a lot of people. Ain't none of them actually been successful. No. And then even if they are for a little while, they always end up getting caught. And all of jail. Them. So it's like, bro, you can invest, become an IT person, do something else, and I guarantee you will live a far successful life.
So good, and
way better.
We talked about that even before, and I even have it written down and almost skipped over it. But like, get a job. And be loyal to that job and watch what can happen. Like I know, like you were talking about, you got into IT and now you've just moved up and advanced through your career just by staying loyal and learning your trade, right? Yeah. I know a lady that started as a cashier at Walmart when she was 16 years old. Now she's like an executive director making bank, travels all over the world, opens up Walmarts, and she has zero education past just being loyal to Walmart.
Yeah, man.
Like, and if you're 16 years old, you got 10 years to where you know where you could be in 10 years. But
you start investing right now in yourself. Start saving money towards your retirement.
A couple dollars, and you want to be worried about, man, that's so good.
You're going to be set up.
That's so good.
Set up, yeah, man. There's so much more that we could do.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited to drop this episode, man. So thank you again for being here. Yes, we're going to link up and do something in the future for sure. And if you're listening, y'all, remember that you're loved and you're forgiven, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. Peace.